Bom, eu espero que vocês tenham gostado. Eu estou muito orgulhoso do que o time fez, o ecossistema fez. Tem um monte de integração para isso acontecer, tem um monte de conversa com o cliente, tem um monte de papo próximo, tem um monte de cliente que está disposto a errar com a gente, até a gente achar um modelo de negócio, achar um produto que encaixe e transformar, se der tudo certo, mais uma vez, a experiência de e-commerce, principalmente no Ad Network no Brasil e para os outros produtos no mundo inteiro. O produto da VTEX é sempre bastante global. E vocês viram também que a gente falou muito de AI. Todo mundo fala de AI. A gente vai falar de AI também. Mas eu não sou especialista em AI. Eu quero muito aprender com AI. Então a gente convidou para cá 2 especialistas de AI para entender não o AI no e-commerce, mas o AI na nossa vida. E eu quero convidá-los para participar aqui, para a gente bater um papo. E se der tudo certo, vai ser rico para mim e para vocês, para a gente aprender mais sobre esses assuntos de AI, para onde ele vai, qual o impacto na nossa vida. E vou chamar aqui primeiro o Uri Levine, que é o autor de um best-seller, Apaixone-se pelo Problema, não pela Solução, e que muitos empreendedores chamam de a Bíblia do empreendedorismo. E ele também é cofundador do Waze. Todo mundo aqui deve usar o Waze. Ele que começou a brincadeira, que é o maior aplicativo de tráfego e navegação baseado em comunidade do mundo. E o Google adquiriu o Waze em 2013 por $1,1 bilhão na época. Ele fez um unicórnio 2 vezes, porque ele também é o ex-investidor e membro do conselho da Moved, o Waze do transporte público, que também foi adquirido pela Intel por $1 bilhão em 2020. Então, tem bastante coisa. Você imagina como ele vai ajudar a gente. Junto com ele, vou chamar o Zack Kass, que é futurista de AI, e é ex-diretor de Go-to-Market da OpenAI, com 14 anos de experiência no campo de tecnologia emergente. Na OpenAI, o Zack construiu suas equipes de venda, parcerias e soluções. Hoje, a missão do Zack é fazer exatamente o que a gente está precisando dele, que é defender um futuro de abundância, desmistificando o AI e ajudando líderes ao redor do mundo a se prepararem para essa iminente revolução tecnológica. Bom, vamos começar e vamos ver o que vai dar. Zack and Uri, please, join me. Good. I'm very happy that you're here. And, I was speaking Portuguese to the audience, and we are all, like everybody in the whole world, trying to figure out the AI consequences for the humanity. And here we are, trying to help ourselves and help them. So let's start. I'll start with a very open question. And first of all, thank you very much for coming. You came a long way to here. It's so important to us that you are available to talk about these things in Brazil, in our home country. I'm very glad, and I'm sure the audience here is very glad that to have the opportunity to talk to you. And I'll start with a very open question. And we are 8 billion people in the world, and AI is going to change the life of every single one of them, eventually. And so I'll start with this. What is the main impact that AI will give to the 8 billion people, not a single cluster of them?
So I would start by saying that I'm really excited to be here. I'm always like to come to Brazil because there are so many Waze users in Brazil. If you are using Waze, raise your hand. And thank you for VTEX, right? This is absolutely amazing event. I don't remember when was the last time that I had so many people in the audience, so thank you. And speaking about AI, every once in a while there is a leapfrog in the evolution, right? And occasionally we don't even know that it's happening. But when this happens, what we are seeing is dramatic change in the way that people are using things. And just remember, Waze has started in 2007 and came to Brazil around 2011. If I will take away your iPhone, I will take away your Waze, I'm not sure that we will survive, right? This is how dramatic the change is. AI is going to be even more impactful because it's going to happen in multiple places. Now we think about the recent AI and we say, okay, this is language generation. This is something that is completely new. But later on, he will tell you that he is on this job for the last 7 years, right? So this is not overnight. It's a long journey to create value. But we are seeing other examples of AI evolving, like autonomous vehicles, right? And this is where it's becoming even decision-making AI, which is more than just decision-supporting AI. So obviously, we're going to see a lot. Occasionally, we will say, okay, wait a minute. Is that going to change our world? Yes. Is that going to make it better? Absolutely, yes. Because it's going to increase productivity, because it's going to allow us more creativity, because every time in the history that was a leapfrog in the evolution, what we have seen later is that the world is becoming better. And I expect the same thing to happen here.
Zack, is there anything that will not change after this AI revolution? Say it again. Say it again.
How about now? Okay, good. Bom dia. Tudo bem? Look, I think Uli said it very well. We observe in history two things that are going to be true for as long as humans are around, I think. The first is that it is better to be born today than at any point in history. That's just an objective fact. And while it can be upsetting sometimes to observe all of the things that don't work right in our world, it is true that today is the best day ever to be alive, and that will be true tomorrow. We also observe that humans evolve in step functional ways, that it actually looks sort of gradual, but in fact, there are leapfrog or great leap moments that occur. We are at the precipice of one of them. And the question now is, will it be a lot better to be born in 20 years or a little bit? And my prediction is that we are looking forward to a future that isn't incrementally better, but a future that is incredibly better. I think most things will change, but two things I predict will not change. The first is the things that make humans happy will not change. Humans have a very simple happiness function. I've never met any of you. This is just a wild guess. All of you would trade all of your money, all of your success for your friends and family, for your community. Brazilians in particular are very communal people. It's a beautiful quality. The reality is that we know what makes us happy. And so what AI will not change is how we derive joy on this earth. That is number one. The second thing AI will not change is what it is that we do to find that joy. AI is not trying to replace your time with your friends and family. AI, despite some of the dystopian films that we've seen published recently, is not actually trying to date you. AI wants to remove from your life the computational cruft, the tasks that are rote, that are mundane. And in the end, I think when the AGI revolution has played out, the two things that will remain true are what makes us happy and how we find that joy. And my hope and prediction is that AGI will ultimately deliver us to a place where we spend much more time in community doing the things that we love, spending time with friends and family.
Makes sense, a lot of sense. So, but Uri, I agree with Zack about, we live in the best years of humanity. This year is like, naturally, there's some caveats, but it's getting better all the time. So I want to talk about the elephant in the room, and people talk a lot about that. Will there be unemployment because of AI?
You look at the history again, and you said, okay, there was invention of cars, right? And then people say, oh, we don't need any more horse riders, so there's going to be unemployment. And guess what? There was no unemployment. And then there was any time that there was a leapfrog in the technology, there was something else being introduced. What happened is that productivity went up and unemployment remained exactly the same. It never went up because of something new. What did happen is that people actually were able to generate more products or more value using the new technology. And this is why there are 8 billion people on the planet today and not just 1 billion that was here 100 years ago. This is what enables that.
The caveat to this is that in every industrial revolution that we've observed, there are more jobs per person than there were previously, and the jobs are better paying, as Uli mentioned, and always safer, always safer. The real risk in the AGI moment is not that we won't have money, that we won't be able to put food on the table. The real risk in this moment is that our jobs, everyone here's jobs, are going to change so frequently and so much that it will become very hard to attach your identity to your work. And I think the big risk in this AGI revolution is not that there isn't work. It's that we will have to learn how to remove our sense of self and purpose from the work that we do, because the work that we do will change so much.
This is a very good, hello. This is a very good point. And it's happening fast, right? So and while we are alive, there will be jobs that will be created and there will be jobs that will be destroyed. So this, we talk a lot about education at VTEX. The industry that we are, the technology industry, depends on highly educated people. And I guess, there's very dynamic revolution that is happening will demand changes in the way we're educated as a society. Could you elaborate on that? Because there's technology to the education. There are the important things that might change. There's how long will it take to educate a person? When?
So definitely one of the most important skills that need to be learned is adaptivity, right? You need to adapt to something new, and you will need to do that, keep on doing that over and over and over again. And so all of a sudden the flexibility and the adaptivity become very, very important. Just think about it. My grandfather had one job throughout his entire life, and then he retired and eventually died, right? One job, that's it. And you look at the younger generation today, and they are jumping from one place to another place and to another place, and there is still a limit to that. The most important factor in your creativity, in your creation, is that you want to create value. At the end of the day, you are going to be successful if you create value. That's simple factor. That's going to remain forever. If you're creating value, you will be successful. Creating value takes time, takes a lot of time. And if you think that with the new technology it's going to be shorter, not necessarily. Because what is likely to happen is that you are not alone anymore, and the competition is going to increase. And until there is form of the market leader, or until there is significant value being created, it's going to pretty much remain the same. It's going to be a long while to create value.
I think that we will reinvent education. I think there's a high probability that the single most broken system in the United States today, which is arguably healthcare and then education, will go through a massive, massive revolution. My prediction is exactly Uli's, which is that the skills that you acquire aren't actually critical anymore to the work that you will do in 5 years, but it is critical to learn and master skills so that you learn how to learn. And that the most important thing that we can do now is teach ourselves things so that we learn how to teach ourselves things. Not because your geology courses are going to make you money, but because mastering geology is interesting in and of itself. And when young people ask me what they should study in college, I tell them all the same thing: it doesn't matter. It does not matter anymore. Your skills and your knowledge are more likely than ever to commoditize. What you will be left with is your adaptability and your humanistic qualities. Ultimately, I think success is predicated on, do I want Uli on my team? Do I like Uli? Do I trust Uli? Much less so than, is Uli an exceptional software engineer? And I think education is going to have to change to update helping young people realize that what will make them successful isn't what they know, it's whether or not they are liked and whether or not they are a good person.
And I would add one more thing. In general, if there is something that we are doing today the same way that our parents did, this is going to change.
Very good. So education, but education will continue to make a big difference, eventually bigger difference than in the past. Because now you need to, a different education, but still very important education. My point is so education creates the doors for the income, the doors for a space in the society. In this new world, inequality will be bigger or smaller?
I have a hot take. I don't actually care how wealthy Jeff Bezos is. I have never cared about how wealthy Jeff Bezos is. The reported inequality between Jeff Bezos and the poorest people on earth is not what concerns me. What concerns me is how quickly are we raising the floor. And what I think everyone should be staring at, the key economic indicators, are not whether the richest are getting richer, but are the poorest getting richer faster. And I have a prediction that the low income class becomes the new middle class. That we reduce the cost of goods and services so far that it becomes much, much more affordable to simply live. And that most of the developing world comes online to achieve new and much better qualities of living, such that even if the wealthiest become much wealthier, it doesn't actually matter because we've so improved the standard of living for the lowest class.
So we mentioned one very, very important skill of adaptability. The other skill that I think that we need to learn is how to fail. Look, when you are going to create something new, this is going to be a journey of failures. We think that we know exactly what we are doing, but the reality is that we don't. So we try one thing and another thing and another thing until we find one thing that does work. If you realize that the creation of something new, of a product, of a go-to-market strategy, of anything new is going to be a journey of failures, then there are two immediate conclusions. The first one is that if you're afraid to fail, in reality, you already failed because you're not going to try. Albert Einstein used to say that if you haven't failed, that's because you haven't tried new things before. If you're going to try new things, you will fail. The second one is that you better fail fast, because when you fail fast, you still have plenty of time to make another attempt, another version, another go-to-market strategy, another approach, and the more attempts that you have, you increase the likelihood of being successful. So in that sense, the biggest enemy of good enough is perfect. You don't need to be perfect in order to win the market. You need to be good enough.
Very good, very good. And it strikes me to think that you said that the low class will be the middle class. They will have the conditions of living. There will be more abundance. But the earth resources are limited. Will AI also help us using our limited resources in a better way, in a more efficient way? Because in the end, there can be a new bottleneck in our society.
For most of human history, we have learned to operate in a zero-sum environment. So we have been conditioned to think that in order for me to win, you have to lose. And this has been sort of true for a lot of human history. It's becoming increasingly untrue. The future is an abundant future where we actually see the end of scarcity across an incredible number of staples. Fusion energy will make energy abundant. And in doing so, make fresh water and foodstuffs abundant. Uli has a child who's working on solving incredible problems in produce. There are thousands of people all over the world trying to figure out how to build vertical farms to feed millions of people with 1/100th of the land. We are moving towards a world where I don't have to lose in order for you to win. Scarcity is a increasingly false reality. That doesn't mean that there will not be competition, but I don't think there needs to be economic competition in a world where we have solved quantum computing, solved nanotechnology, solved fusion energy, where we've cured cancer, where we've cured neurodegenerative diseases. I think we are moving quickly towards a world where actually our competition can be predicated on things like sports that have much less to do with whether or not we are living quality lives.
So scarcity is good because it is a driver for a change, right? My t-shirt says, fall in love with the problem, not the solution. The problem is an opportunity. And when there are problems, then we are starting to look at it in a way that we can, remove this problem and actually move forward and face the next problem. And so in that sense, I think that we will always have scarcity. We will always going to expand our boundary by reaching to the scarcity, addressing that, and then face the next one, and the next one, and the next one. As Zack mentioned, one of my sons is growing avocado in Portugal, and he generates 2.5 times the yield than any other avocado grower in that region, which basically means that we are exceeding our boundaries and we are moving forward. Now, if you ask me if 20 years down the road this is going to be enough, definitely not. There will be someone else that will have something better and will make another leapfrog.
Very good. And then we have our bodies. What about the impact of AI in our health and access to health as well? Because I think this is a very straightforward question, right? Because we know technology, we rely so much in technology to maintain our health, but I don't know if you have some extra take.
So I'm I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm building startup, Waze and Move It, and 8 other different startups. I'm also a teacher, by the way, so I feel equally rewarded if I build stuff myself or I guide someone to build it. And to a certain extent, writing the book was fulfilling my destiny as a teacher. But one of my startups is dealing exactly with medical AI and trying to create the clinical reasoning for all the other AI engines, so sort of Intel inside in that sense. And the fact is that when you look at medical services around the world today, you are saying, no, this is not enough. We are making too much progress in terms of the populations, in terms of the disease, and we still don't have enough medical services and not at the level that is available for everyone. And definitely AI is going to make a leapfrog in the quality of the service. And that's going to happen in multiple aspects of it, not just the ability to sort of support doctors to make 10 times bigger diagnostics than today, but also in the ability to execute operations in a more accurate way than a human being can do. Maybe we don't trust a machine to operate us yet, but eventually it will have less mistakes and it will do a better job than most people. And so I think that what we will see is that in the space of the medical world, we are going to see significant leapfrog, and this is sooner than we think it is. This is really around the corner. Now, around the corner can still be a decade, but it's still around the corner.
Yeah, I would say I totally agree with Uli on all of that. Both my parents are healthcare providers, and I've observed how broken, one is cancer, the other is obstetrics. And I've observed how broken the medical system is up close for so long. And Uli's point is the best one, which is it's not just broken because it's so hard to provide care. It is so hard for your doctor to do their job. That's just a sad fact. It's also true that everyone wants healthcare and very few people have access to it. The most broken thing about healthcare around the world is how scarce it is. And I will, on the record, disagree with Uli that scarcity is a good thing. Because Uli also made a recursive argument, which is that scarcity is good insofar as it helps us solve scarcity. And I think that we just don't want medical services to be scarce. I think we should have abundant medical services. And AI-powered private care is right around the corner, to Uli's point. We are very close to every person with internet access being able to see a primary care physician. Maybe not a real human, but someone that can easily diagnose all of their skin conditions, all of their, any symptom that we can record and route that to an appropriate space. And if we can solve preventative care and triaging, we've made a 250% improvement in healthcare outcomes. And this will be one of the great loops. On the other side, you should expect us to cure cancer. You should expect us to cure neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. All of the bio and life sciences companies around the world are so excited because of AI. And your expectation should be that we have great leaps in the field of drug discovery over the next decade.
That's very very happy to hear that. Very happy to hear that. We talk about inequality, and I liked the way of your thought very much, you two. But then okay, so the world just get better, but the technology access so that people can innovate AI is very sophisticated to develop models, to develop solutions on top of AI. And what about the access for this technology? Will it be like a new gold that just a few people have, and then they would create wealth and distribute it in various ways, as I said, increasing the demand for the services? Or is it going to be like in a way, at the beginning, the internet, right? Like everybody has was going at the same ground level with the opportunities about the internet. What about AI? Like, will OpenAI be the master of the universe or there will be other companies and people, and especially in other parts of the world as well, not only in the US.
So you're right. This is same order of magnitude of the revolution of the internet, right? It changed everyone's, but not on the first day. It took time, right? And this because we are people, and we are in general afraid of changes, and in general it takes us time to adapt something new. But if you're a software engineer and you are not using AI to generate code, you are going to be left behind. You have no choice. You have to learn how to use that in order to generate way more better and faster code and increase your productivity. So if you're next door engineer developing 5 times faster because they are using AI and you are not, start today. Because otherwise you will become irrelevant. And this is exactly like any other tool in the history. If you don't know how to harness the tool to increase your productivity, then you are going to be left behind.
This one's tricky because on one hand, we observe right now that there is a massive compute shortage. And obviously, the scarcity of compute will lead to inequality of the distribution of this technology. If we don't build enough compute, we won't be able to meet the demand with all the inference. At the same time, we are observing that the cost of these models is coming down so far, so fast, all the time. GPT-3 was $10 per million tokens when we launched it. Today, it's 10 cents per million tokens. We are quickly resetting Moore's law. That's dead. There is something very new at play. My prediction is that access to the technology like AGI will exist on the physical device. That the CPU or maybe the neural processing unit of your cell phone will be the thing that powers your access to the technology. And if we can solve edge computing, it means that we should be able to ubiquitously distribute this technology to everyone. I should also add that I don't think that is actually a necessity to the equality issue. I think that the value of AI will end up accruing to everyone in this room. And that even if ChatGPT becomes more expensive, not less, all of the systems in your lives that are improved because of AI will serve you really well.
Using the internet analogy, right? 30 years after the internet really picked up, there's almost nobody in the world that is not heavily impacted and benefited from the technology, right? In a direct way or indirect way. That's very good. And we talk a lot about AI increasing productivity, generating abundance of everything, mostly. But what about creativity? Will it help? Will it substitute? Are we going to a rock concert of an AI bot?
So the argument, I make a very specific argument on this, and Brazil will understand this argument as well as anyone. AI is not coming to replace Carnival, okay? I guarantee you that. The best party on earth will exist in 1,000 years. Whether or not we could send our avatars, whether or not we could automate the parade, we won't, because it would be terrible. In the same way that you don't want to go to a play that is acted out by a bunch of robots, there are things on this earth that are sacred because we do them, because they are fun, because they are communal. I think what we are going to have to do is really quickly decide what are the things that we want AI to do on our behalf and what are the things that we don't. And the scariest dystopian film that I think has ever been made is Her. Her with Joaquin Phoenix, which depicts a lonely man falling in love with the machine. And it's terrifying to me because it's imaginable. It is a real reality where we could somehow invent the most amazing technology ever and surrender our humanity to it. Whereas I think the bright, beautiful future that we all want is one where AGI is sending emails so that every day can be carnival. And my hope is that our creativity and our imagination flourish in a world where we don't have to do all the other bullshit.
Good point.
So, in my mind, most that you really, when you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to make things like that, or you actually run into something that you really hate. And by the way, I do hate traffic jams. And you basically say, I'm going to change that, right? So the emotional driver, the passion, the desire is, I hope it's not going to be replaced by AI. And I hope that we will still be passionate next year and 10 years down the road. And our next generation is going to be at least as passionate as we are, because otherwise then we do have a problem.
Good point.
Yeah, we'll call it the Carnival litmus test. When Carnival stops going, then we have a huge problem.
You're right. You're right. So it's good to have some assurance from you that this is not gonna end. That's good. But AI needs data, right? Without data, there's no AI. And we, there's with not by accident. There's so many discussions recently and regulations about the protection of data, the protection of our own data, the protection of our own data that is in custody of our suppliers and brands that we like. We know here we do commerce, and every single booth here, they carry valuable data about a lot of individuals in Brazil and outside of Brazil as well. And but AI is hungry for data. How are we going to balance this hungriness, and at the same time protect privacy and even human rights, because eventually you don't want to be violated in the things that you don't want to disclose, and all of a sudden your bot knows about you and you are uncomfortable with that. Let's talk a little bit about that.
So, the unfortunate event is that people don't care about privacy. Just think of everything that we are posting on social networks, which obviously is not private anymore. And just think about your passwords for everything. And people prefer simplicity than protecting their privacy, right? Protecting the privacy is hard work. Simplicity is simple, and this is why most people prefer that. The reality is that we do need a lifeguard to watch over us, because otherwise we allow either governments or corporates too much power. And this is something that we cannot allow.
I also have a hot take, which is I think there's a certain amount of privacy that we will accept to surrender in exchange for the value and utility of the service. I think that, for example, we are quickly moving towards a world where we are surveilled much, much more. And I think we are going to accept that world because it will reduce the risk of physical violence. I think the likelihood, if you're a woman in this room, I'm sure that at some point you have felt unsafe in this world, and maybe too often. I think that AI is going to present a lot of opportunities for us to reduce the threat of physical violence in exchange for some privacy. And I don't know what the trade-off should be. I've thought about it plenty, and it sort of hurts my head. My expectation is that we will draw very fine lines on what data we want to give to, for example, OpenAI, to train these large models. But I cannot say that I don't want to be surveilled in exchange for knowing that my family is safe, or that I am not going to die of a heart attack. I'm willing to give a hospital all of my personal data if it can tell me when I'm at risk for a major event. This is going to be complicated.
So I see what you're saying. You know, the notion of privacy, the limits, even in my generation, when I was young, is different from now. When I was young and I see my young little daughter, she has a different perception of what is the limit and what is not. And sometimes the limit is harder. You know, they talk a lot about, oh, but you took a picture of me and you didn't ask me. This never went through my head before. But they talk about that. Oh, you took a picture without permission. And on the opposite, they, you know, a lot of their friends like put pictures in the social media all the time, and so the lines are changing very much. I agree. There's no answer to that, and there are good impacts and bad impacts. But there's something that no one wants is to be stolen, right? We don't want our data to be stolen. To be bad used by someone else that is a criminal or want to take advantage of us. So, and sometimes our data is in somewhere that we don't even know where, and sometimes in this place there is a robbery. There's what we call cyber attack, and now this you know, the value of the reward for stealing others people's data is bigger, and then we will, how this will trade. And you know, we need data, but we need to protect even more, and because the value is bigger, the cyber attacks will only increase. Is there a point where people want to share data, not because they care, as you said, but because they worried people can steal it?
I think it's important to remember that Uli convinced you, all of Brazil and many other people in this world, to share your location with him in exchange for better traffic patterns. I really think that we should be honest about the fact that there are so many things in our life that are broken, that affording a machine access to our personal information to fix those things will be a net good. And I think, specifically to the cyber attack point, I think that we should make AI-powered crime exceptionally terrifying. I think that we should make it so scary to be a bad actor using AI that no one would ever consider doing it unless they were crazy or truly desperate. And I think if we come out early and say, you'll do life in prison if you pretend to be someone with AI voice, or if you commit a cyber attack powered by AI, we will reduce the likelihood of these events.
So I agree that you share location, but it's not with me, it's with the rest of the drivers, right? This is where it's making that very, very important. Waze is a social network of drivers that you share the information with the rest of the drivers. And by the way, when we started, we decided that the only stakeholders that we have in terms of users are actually the drivers. And so we were committed to protect the privacy of the drivers, and we built the machine in such a way that the machine knows where you are, but they don't know who you are. And that separation actually turns out to be important. Now, I think that it's a bit too early to see AI being used as cybersecurity attack, but we will see that. We have to remember that in cyber, the criminals are the most innovative they are. They are way more innovative than everyone else. And only once they do something, then the rest of the industry can figure out what is it that and try to prevent that. And so they are a step ahead of us, and they will be the first one to realize how to use AI in order to do, different types of attacks. And that we will need to prevent. When this happens, we will need to set the regulation that will make it unbearably to pay if you are breaking the law on that sense, because otherwise we are at risk.
So AI can be a weapon as well, and can it be a weapon for as for a war between countries, like cyber war? Is this a reality because of AI?
So, when you think of image processing and, face recognition, which is essentially part of AI, that is being used for a decade now, right? So, so we identify people, and 10 years ago, we didn't know that this is AI, but it's actually the same thing, right? So it's generating the concepts of how do people look like if we have historical picture of them, right? And so these evolutions of image processing are actually part of AI, and obviously I would imagine that countries do use that.
Yeah, well, I will say something to dodge the question a little, which is my prediction is we see far less conflicts between nation states over the next 20 years, which is that we start to discover that we are approaching a world of abundance, and the necessity to fight becomes much marginalized. This is my only hope, because I do fear that international conflict will present a whole lot more complications if we don't realize that we shouldn't be fighting at all.
Good point. And now I will transition to internal conflicts. We talk a lot about the power of AI to personalize the content, to personalize the news that they see it, and to personalize eventually the reality in a sense that every one of us see it. And all of a sudden we're seeing different reality, although we are in the same country and same city. And we saw some of that, like people talk about the weaponization of social media, right? They talk a lot about that, and people seeing different realities, what to call polarization of the world, polarization of political views. And this is some kinds can emerge into some conflicts in the country, at the country. We're seeing this everywhere. People with extremely different political views in the same country, with not even be able to talk with each other. So what about, democracy needs some kind of shared truth. I saw that with Thomas Friedman told on an article from him. And eventually, do you think can we meet the end of the shared truth because of AI, or not? And how far can this personalization go? So we are a concise society.
So you're right that even within the country there are different opinions, but I would like to correct you on that. It's not views or opinions; it's actually a different set of beliefs, and these are hard to change, right? Because if you believe in A and I believe in B, then there is no way for you to convince me that A is right and B is wrong, and no the other way around. What we do have to accept is that it's really simple. You believe in A and I believe in B, and this is it, right? There is no problem with that, unless you want to force me to believe in your own belief, and this is where the problem is.
Yeah, I think the value in hyper-personalized truths will actually be really low. I don't think in the future you will benefit by believing something so different from everyone else. And so I think we will not see hyper-personalization of facts. In the same way that I don't think we will actually see hyper-personalization of content. There's something so wonderful about watching a show with people. And as soon as you design a custom television show or a custom movie for someone, you can't actually watch and discuss those things together. The zeitgeist is so critical. That being said, the thing that I wonder most right now is how much conflict on Earth is a result of scarcity and how much of it is actually a result of ideology. And I think we are going to discover very soon that most of our conflict is a result of scarcity. That most of the reasons we fight is because we think the world is zero-sum. And I'm very eager to find out how much of our fighting is actually a result of believing two different things, or, as Uli pointed, forcing someone else to believe something else.
Very good point. And you brought a very interesting point right now, because there's some limit that is natural. You don't want AI to produce a different film for me and a different film for you, because then we cannot talk about the movie, then we cannot have a beer together to talk about how nice or bad the movie is. So it is a natural limit for how much we want AI to move forward. But let's talk about the other limits, like ethical limits, eventually things that we don't want AI to move forward, not because it's natural, but because we as a society don't want AI to cross that boundary. Is there any boundary that AI cannot cross?
I mean, I have a very specific one, which is I really hope we do not fall in love with machines. I really hope we do not humanize AI, because I think it will be the beginning of the end for the meaning of life. I hope that we surrender all of our other work to machines, but that we never actually cross the boundary of falling in love or finding community with the technology itself.
So, I have 5 children, and there are a few things that I guide them throughout their life. One of them is that I taught them to fail, because every time that they fail and get up, they get up stronger. But another thing that I did throughout their growing up journey is that I did not set the limit. There was no boundary, right? I basically say, I have my own boundary, and as soon as you get there, I will tell you that, guess what? You just crossed the line. But I didn't tell them where the line is, because I wanted them to keep on exploring and expand and try more and try to reach out more. I think that we are going to have the same with AI. We don't know today, and we have to accept the fact that we don't know. It's okay that we don't know. But once we will get there, we will need to say, wait a minute. No. This is something that we don't like, and let's stop it there.
I know. We should not marry machines. I know that to be true.
With that, I definitely agree.
Okay, well, so then we do have boundaries.
In some cases, we know. In some other cases, we still don't know. We will find out.
All right.
So I see myself thanking Alexa a lot. I shouldn't do that, right? Because I say thank you to Alexa. And
No. I actually disagree with that. Learning to be polite to our devices,
it's a good idea.
Is actually super valuable. Showing politeness and thoughtfulness, but it doesn't mean that you should profess your love to Alexa, or that you should find more comfort in Alexa than your family and friends. Alexa should not be your comfort, but being kind to Alexa is totally reasonable.
So, if you find more comfort with Alexa than with your wife, I would recommend replacing your wife.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay, so I think we're getting to the final moments of our discussion. I want to thank you very much for the insights. I think, at least for me, they were very rich. And maybe if there's any final message that you want to give to the audience before we wrap it up.
Obrigado. Thank you so much for for including me today. Thank you. I love Brazil. You do not have to twist my arm to come back. It is such a special place. And one of the reasons that Brazil is so special, and I was talking about this at dinner last night with a friend, Brazilians know how to have fun, and they know how to have fun with each other. What makes Brazil such a special place is that if you come to Brazil, you cannot not have fun. It's just one of these places that community builds joy. And I hope that you can teach the rest of the world that over the next 50 years. Because I think that the most important thing that we will all learn how to do in this coming wave of AGI is to have fun with each other. And the scariest reality to me, the scariest dystopian reality, is one where we become more interested in our virtual worlds than in our physical ones. And so my ask to all of you is, consider using your phones less. Consider spending less time on social media, in your screen, and consider spending more time with your friends and family. Because if Brazil starts to slip, everyone will slip. No one knows how to party with their friends like Brazil. So continue to set the bar for community, joy with friends and family.
Said the guy that used to work at OpenAI, okay? The technologist. So I completely agree with you. If it's too much, it's not good, right?
You know, it's I could not agree more. I really like to come to Brazil. This is you know, one of the places that I come here often. I was here last month actually at South Summit, and one of the reasons that I like to come here is the people. The people are absolutely amazing. They are always welcoming. They are always warm, and it seems like the best place in the world to actually socialize, engagement, create communities, better than any other place that I've seen. And this is absolutely amazing. But I think that your journey as individuals should be about focusing on creating value. And the great thing about value is that you create value for others. The derivative of that is that you will get your own value from that. So think about what is it that you can do better for others is going to be the guide for your life, and this is going to be something that will always serve you well.
Very nice words. I'm very glad to have you here. I'm sure that the audience will sleep tonight with a lot of thoughts about how this revolution will take place. And I'm very optimistic about what you said. I thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hope we can talk more as this evolves.
Obrigado.
Muito obrigado.